He was once invisible to the world, broke, jobless, and heartbroken. The woman he loved, the one he saw a future with, mocked his dreams, laughed at his ambition, and left him for a billionaire with a penthouse and promises. She thought he would never become anything. But destiny doesn't forget the humble. Years passed, and he rose. A tech tycoon, a crypto genius, a man of wealth and influence. Then, one unforgettable day, fate brought them face to face again. His ex, once dazzling and proud, now sat on the sidewalk, homeless, worn out, and begging for food with her twin children clinging to her side. What happened next? You won't believe it. So sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn as we take you through this shocking and emotional tale. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss our inspiring stories. Jordan had never known luxury. His world was molded by scarcity, a childhood etched in the underbelly of the city, where the power grid was more loyal to darkness than to light, and each dinner was a prayer answered with rice and beans. He grew up in a narrow apartment above a mechanic shop. Oil-stained walls, leaky pipes, and the buzz of generators made up the lullabies of his youth. His father, Mr. Ahmadi, once a proud literature teacher, had lost his job when the school downsized. His mother sold a kara by the roadside, her fingers permanently browned by hot oil and her face weathered by sun and sacrifice. Jordan learned early that life didn't owe you kindness. While his peers played with plastic toys and rode battered bicycles, he roamed the scrapyard nearby, picking apart electronics and wondering how things worked. He was the kind of boy who asked too many questions and got too few answers. School was more of a battleground than a sanctuary. The other kids mocked his torn uniform and his plastic-covered shoes. Still, he endured. He walked to school every day, books in a nylon bag tied with rope, fueled by grit and the belief that knowledge could change his fate. When the teachers droned on about equations and algorithms, Jordan listened with an intensity that made them pause. There was something behind those eyes, something waiting to burst through the cracks of poverty. At 16, he was already tutoring other students for pennies. Not for fun, but to buy airtime so he could sneak into internet cafes and watch YouTube tutorials on programming. He would stay till midnight sometimes, when the shop owner wasn't looking, learning about JavaScript, Python, and cryptocurrency trading. Not because anyone told him it was the future, but because he believed his future had to start somewhere. His dreams took their first real breath when he gained admission into the University of Ibadan to study software engineering. The acceptance letter arrived on a Wednesday, and so did the tears. His father kissed his forehead for the first time in years, and his mother held the letter like it was a winning lottery ticket. But joy, in Jordan's world, was always tied to struggle. Tuition was another mountain. His mother sold her deep freezer. His father took on janitorial work at a school that barely paid him. Still, they came up short. Jordan deferred his admission. For 1 year, he didn't cry. He just got to work. That year, he repaired phones and built WordPress websites for local businesses. He learned how to flip crypto tokens online using a cracked smartphone and borrowed data. Slowly, he scraped together enough to begin. And when he finally stepped onto the campus the following year, he did it with nothing but a half-functioning laptop, 1 pair of jeans, and enough hunger to fill the stadium. College was no fairy tale. Jordan juggled 3 side hustles while attending lectures. He barely slept. His hands were often stained with grease from repairing gadgets or ink from his freelance graphic design jobs. While others danced in clubs and wore matching ankara to social events, Jordan sat in cybercafes until dawn, debugging code. There were nights he went to bed on an empty stomach, his pillow wet not from tears, but from sweat. And yet, he never missed a deadline. He graduated top of his class, not because he was the smartest, but because he refused to be ignored. He had seen too many dreams buried under unpaid fees and untreated sickness. His would not be one of them. After graduation, Jordan had one goal: to become a tech founder. But Legos wasn't waiting for another dreamer. He sent out over 80 CVS in 3 months. No offers, just silence. His meager savings melted away like ice in sun. He started skipping meals again. Even his optimism, which had once burned like fire, now flickered like a dying candle. That was when he met Zara. It was a Thursday afternoon. He had just left an interview at a startup that promised exposure, but no salary. His shoulders slumped as he exited the building, but she was there, vibrant, confident, sipping iced coffee from a plastic cup and laughing at something on her phone. They bumped into each other, literally. His apology turned into small talk turned into laughter, and by evening, they were sharing roasted corn and cold drinks under a kiosk by the roadside. Zara was unlike anyone Jordan had met. She had studied media and communications, worked briefly for a fashion brand, and was now taking a break to figure things out. She had an apartment in Lekki Phase 2, a gym membership, and a collection of designer bags from her influencer days. Jordan didn't ask too many questions. He didn't want to ruin the magic. For once, someone saw him, not as a project, but as a person. They talked about the future like it was something they could touch. Zara listened with wide eyes when he spoke about apps he wanted to build, coins he was watching, and ideas that kept him up at night. She called him my genius and said he'd be rich one day. Jordan, who had always been guarded with affection, let his heart open like a window in Harmattan. He started sleeping better, smiling more, but behind Zara's laughter was a restlessness. Jordan chose not to see. She had tastes he couldn't afford, habits he didn't question, and friends whose names sounded like brands. Still, she stayed, moved in unofficially. Her perfume lingered in his room long after she left for hangouts. Her wigs took up more space on his desk than his notebooks did. And slowly, the struggle returned, not the kind born from poverty, but the kind born from comparison. Jordan didn't realize it then, but he had just begun a new kind of battle. Not against hunger, but against inadequacy. Not for survival, but for worth. In the beginning, loving Zara felt like sunlight breaking through a long stretch of rain. She filled Jordan's world with color-bright lipstick stains on coffee mugs, laughter spilling across bare walls, the scent of her jasmine oil clinging to his pillow. She brought him out of his shell, introduced him to new music, encouraged him to dream bigger. But beneath the perfume and poetry, a quiet shift was underway. She didn't move in officially, but her things did. First, it was a weekend bag, then a suitcase. Then came the makeup drawer, the shelf of skincare, the nail polish that somehow ended up in the fridge. Zara's presence grew like a song you didn't remember downloading but kept hearing in every room. She laughed at his jokes, called him my billionaire in the making, and lit candles on hard days. And Jordan, desperate to believe in something tender, gave more of himself each day. But love, he'd soon learn, was not always gentle. Zara never worked. "I'm rebranding," she'd say, tapping away at her phone, posting filtered selfies with motivational captions like "soft life only" or "manifesting millions." She wore expensive clothes gifted by ex-boyfriends and attended events sponsored by people Jordan couldn't afford to befriend. When he questioned her lifestyle, she brushed it off with a laugh. "Babe, don't worry. When your crypto pops off, we'll both be soft." At first it was playful, but over time, the expectations piled on like unpaid bills. "You know Tolu?" she asked one night, flipping through Instagram stories. "His girl just opened a boutique in Ikoyi." "Guess who funded it?" Jordan didn't answer. She didn't need him to. He started trading NFTs. Boom, just like that. "They're traveling to Ghana next month." Jordan nodded, stirring a pot of watery agusi. "Good for them," he said. Zara hummed. "It's just, some people move with Speed, you know? They don't get comfortable with struggle. She didn't say it unkindly. That was her power. The ability to slip blades between sentences and make them sound like compliments. Jordan began to feel like a project under construction with no clear deadline. She stopped cooking, said she was watching her weight. When he came home late from freelance gigs, she barely looked up. And when she did, her face was tired, eyes dimmed by disappointment. "You still working on that same crypto app?" she'd ask. "When will it be ready?" "I'm tired of surviving on vibes." Jordan still took care of her. Bought her data plans when he could. Took her to Mr. Biggs on Fridays when he had a little extra. He even saved to buy her a second-hand iPhone when her screen cracked. But appreciation faded as quickly as the battery. One afternoon, he came home early with roasted chicken, her favorite. He had landed a small contract debugging code for a local online store and wanted to celebrate. But Zara wasn't home. Her clothes were gone. Her favorite wig stand empty. On the kitchen table sat a note. "Needed some time away. Don't wait up." No explanations. No warmth. Just silence. She returned 3 days later with freshly braided hair, a new pair of shoes, and no apology. "Where were you?" Jordan asked, careful with his tone. "I stayed." "With friends," she said, dismissive. "Why the interrogation?" "I needed space." "But you didn't call." "I'm not your prisoner, Jordan." "Respect my autonomy." He didn't reply. There was no handbook for loving someone who didn't need you, but stayed anyway. That night, he couldn't sleep. The walls of their one room flat felt too small, too loud. Zara slept peacefully beside him, unbothered. Jordan stared at the ceiling, counting the cracks like regrets. He started working harder, longer. Fixing laptops, building e-commerce sites, anything that paid. He believed if he just earned more, she'd smile more. Maybe then she'd stay without wandering. Maybe then she'd see him the way she once did, brilliant, ambitious, worthy. But ambition can't compete with envy. And love that comes with conditions rarely leaves room for healing. One evening, she confronted him while he was ironing his only clean shirt. "You didn't send me transport today," she said flatly. "I didn't have enough," he replied. "My last client hasn't paid yet," she scoffed. "You always have an excuse." "My friend's boyfriend sends her money every Friday without fail." You're always talking about tomorrow." "What about today?" "I'm trying," Jordan said quietly. She laughed bitterly. "Try harder. I can't keep eating dreams." He wanted to scream, to remind her of the sacrifices, the late nights, the jobs he turned down to build something sustainable. But instead, he nodded. He understood. Zara wasn't cruel. She was simply tired of being patient. And maybe so was he. One night, he found an unfamiliar perfume on their bedsheets. It was musky, bold, nothing like Zara's usual floral scent. He checked the bathroom 2 toothbrushes again. The second one, blue with thick bristles. "Not his?" he asked. She lied. "Something about a cousin." "A visitor. A forgotten overnight bag." He said nothing. Just nodded again. But something inside him cracked open. The next morning, he didn't ask where she was going. He didn't ask who was texting her. He simply packed his things into his backpack and walked out to the cyber cafe to finish coding a client's website. For 6 hours, he wrote line after line of flawless code while his heart quietly bled into the keyboard. When he returned that night, Zara was scrolling through Instagram on his foam mattress. "You look tired," she said without looking up. Didn't reply. He just nodded. Later, he wrote in his notebook, "Finish CryptoBot prototype, send 3 proposals tonight, learn React.js, apply for GrantSave." Zara save myself then fall apart. He stared at the word save myself for a long time. Zara slept peacefully that night. Jordan did not. The moment that broke Jordan didn't arrive with thunder. It came quietly, wrapped in ordinary details, a cool Thursday afternoon. A crowded bus stop, the sticky smell of roasted corn in the air. His gig that day had been canceled. The cafe's generator was down again, so he decided to head home. Early, he even picked up a small bag of suya with extra pepper. Wrapped tightly in old newspaper, a surprise for Zara. Something told him she'd be in a good mood if he came bearing food. He imagined the moment clearly, her smile, her voice. Calling him my baby, the two of them eating on the floor, laughing at memes on her phone. It was how things used to be, before the cold silences and passive jabs. But the door was unlocked. At first, he thought nothing of it. She often forgot. But the laugh he heard next was not hers. It was deeper, masculine, amused, too at ease. Jordan's. Stomach dropped. He pushed the door slowly, gently, as if noise might make things worse. Inside, a man sat on the edge of his bed, Jordan's bed, wearing designer jeans, a gold wristwatch, and a cologne that smelled like expensive rebellion. Zara stood beside him, wig off, her natural hair tucked under a scarf she only wore when she felt at home. The man glanced at Jordan and smirked. "Oh, you didn't tell me your brother was coming." Zara turned sharply, eyes wide. "Jordan, I thought you were at work." Jordan didn't speak. He simply stared at them, suya in one hand, breath caught somewhere between his chest and throat. The man stood casually, adjusted his belt, and strolled out like he owned the place. Zara reached for Jordan's hand. "It's not what you think." Jordan set the suya down slowly on the table. "Then tell me what to think." She hesitated, voice suddenly small. "I needed help." He was helping me with things. "What things?" "Data, airtime, just little things." "I haven't had work in weeks. So you bring him here?" Her silence was an answer. Jordan looked around the room they had shared, the scattered wigs, the half-empty bottle of perfume he bought with his last 2K, the picture of them at the beach last year stuck on the wall with cello tape. Everything suddenly felt counterfeit. "You should have just told me," he said, his voice thin. "I would have found a way." "That's the problem, Jordan," she said, her tone rising. "You're always promising to find a way. But the way never comes." He stepped back as if slapped. "So this is my punishment for being poor?" "No," she whispered, eyes wet. "Don't say it like that. You know I love you." But the word love didn't land the way it used to. It sounded like a souvenir from a city they no longer visited. "I'm sorry," she said, kneeling in front of him. "Please, it won't happen again. I swear on my mother's life." He didn't answer. He didn't cry. He simply sat on the floor, staring at the suya that was now cold, wondering how much more dignity he could lose before something inside him died completely. That night, they didn't talk. Zara slept facing the wall. Jordan stared at the ceiling, blinking back Betrayal. In the morning, she made breakfast, a gesture, plantain and eggs, oversalted. He ate in silence. She kissed his forehead and left to run errands. But something had shifted. Jordan didn't feel like a man anymore. He felt like a placeholder. For the next 2 weeks, Zara tried to patch what was broken. She cooked more often, sent him good luck texts before interviews, smiled more. She wore his favorite hoodie and called him my genius again. But behind it all was a silence that roared, the kind of silence only trust leaves behind when it walks out. Jordan drowned himself in work. He stayed late at cafes, sometimes sleeping on benches near roadside vendors just to avoid home. He watched YouTube tutorials on scaling crypto infrastructure. He wrote code till his fingers ached. He believed that if he could just build something, anything, it would quiet the humiliation burning inside him. But Zara's hunger wasn't for hope. It was for results. "You ironed this shirt?" "It still looks rough," she said one morning, eyeing him from across the room. He chuckled nervously. "It's just old. I'll buy a new one when I get paid." "You've been saying that for 6 months." He said nothing. "You don't get tired?" She continued, voice sharp. "Every day is the same with you. Struggle dreams, struggle again. When will we finally arrive? Jordan wanted to ask her where exactly they were going, but instead, he wrote another list in his notebook. Learn solidity, finish, exchange, backend, apply for startup. Naya Grant pitched to 3 investors, survive, Zara, don't break. Zara started spending nights out again. Going to see my friend in Vi, she'd say, dressed in a backless dress and heels Jordan couldn't afford. Which friend? She'd roll her eyes. You don't know him. Him. He tried to protest once. She cut him off with a glare. I'm not your property, Jordan. Don't stress me. That night, he made dinner for 2. He ate alone. The second toothbrush appeared. Again, then disappeared, then came back. One night, he entered the room to find a red wine stain on the bedsheet and a new box of condoms in the drawer, unopened, but still loud. He didn't ask. She didn't explain. Instead, he prayed. Not long. Elaborate prayers. Just short sentences whispered into the dark. God, help me. Give me strength. Give me peace. Show me a door. He began skipping dinner to save money. Skipped showers sometimes, too. He stopped talking to friends. The only thing that remained consistent was his code and the weight in his chest. There are moments in life that don't feel like events. They feel like endings. Not loud, not cinematic, just still. That was the mood the morning Jordan sat at his tiny wooden table, holding a velvet ring box he could barely afford. It was small, modest. The cubic zirconia stone caught the light gently, like hope afraid to shine too brightly. He'd saved for months, skipped meals, sold his old headphones, pulled triple shifts on freelance gigs just to buy it, because Jordan still believed in second chances, in forgiveness, in Zara. Despite everything, the cheating, the lies, the silent treatments, he still pictured a life with her. A future, a balcony where they would sit drinking wine, laughing over stories of the tough times. He clung to that dream like a man clings to a sinking raft. Not because it still made sense, but because it was all he had. He ironed his cleanest shirt, white, a little frayed at the cuffs, and polished his shoes with banana peel, the way his father taught him. His jeans were faded, but his heart was full. He texted Zara, "Meet me at Mega Mall at 5 p.m. I have a surprise. At 4:50. He was already waiting. She arrived late, radiant in a red dress that hugged her body, makeup immaculate, heels clicking like power on tile. People turned to look. She didn't greet him with a hug, just a nod. You look amazing, Jordan said, nervous. She smiled faintly. You clean up well, too. He led her to the food court, right in the center. It was noisy, alive with laughter, children screaming, trays clattering, but Jordan only heard his own heartbeat. He pulled the ring from his pocket, dropped to one knee. Nana, he began. Her eyes widened in horror. Jordan, get up. He looked up at her, confused but smiling. Just say yes. She shook her head, stepping back. I can't, not here. Not like this, he blinked. Why? Her voice rose, slicing the air like broken glass. Because I can't marry you, Jordan. You're a good man, but I need more. I can't suffer in my father's house, and then come suffer in marriage too. I need stability. The crowd around them slowed. Phones were lifted. Whispers fluttered. Jordan stayed on one knee a second too long. Then he rose. Closed the ring box with a quiet snap. Smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. He didn't cry. He just nodded. 2 days later, she came to the apartment. I do love you, she said, sitting carefully on the bed, as if rehearsed. But love isn't enough. I'm seeing someone else. We're getting married soon. Jordan nodded again. So that's why you said no? She looked away. I'm from a poor home. I can't marry into another one. I'm sorry. There were no fights, no yelling. Just a quiet that sounded like death. She stood, adjusted her handbag. I wish you the best, she said. And then she was gone. That was the last time Jordan saw her dot at least for a while. The days that followed melted into one another. Time lost its color. He stopped opening the curtains. Light felt like mockery. He lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling until the sun left. He barely ate, barely moved. His room became a museum of broken things. A dead phone, unfinished projects, dreams without endings. His laptop gathered dust. His notebook sat untouched. His inbox filled with rejections. Even his parents' calls became hard to answer. "Are you okay?" His mother would ask in Yoruba. "I'm fine," he'd lie. One Thursday night, he walked home in the rain. Not because he had to, but because the ache in his chest needed a storm to match it. His clothes were soaked. His bones ached. He dropped his wet bag on the floor, sat on the bed, and stared into nothing. He didn't plan to give up, but he also didn't plan to keep going. At 9:12 p.m., he stood on the pedestrian walkway of 3rd Mainland Bridge. The city glowed around him. Lagos lights danced across the water like ghosts. Cars sped past, horns blaring. But Jordan didn't hear them. His mind was blank. Just one more step, and the pain would end. The embarrassment, the loneliness, the constant struggle. He thought of Zara's words, "I can't suffer twice." He thought of the laughter in the mall. The way the security guard avoided eye contact, the way the phones recorded. He closed his eyes. Then, "Brother," a voice called out. He opened them. A taxi driver stood a few meters away, holding an umbrella. "You day okay?" the man asked. Jordan nodded. Lied. The man stepped closer. "No, you're not. I know that look. I've been there." Jordan tried to smile. Failed. "Look," the man continued, voice steady. "I don't know your story, but I know pain. And I know this. This right here. This is not your ending." Jordan looked down at the water. The man followed his gaze. "That water won't solve anything. You think it's peace, but it's just more silence." "I don't see a way out," Jordan whispered. "That's because you're in a bend." The man said, "Not the end. You hear me? A bend." Something in that sentence, the rhythm, the simplicity, cracked Jordan open. He stepped back. The man nodded slowly. "Good. Go home. Rest. Try again tomorrow. Your name is still in God's book." Jordan turned, his step shaky. "Thank you," he whispered. The man smiled. "When you make it big, remember tonight." Jordan walked home under the rain. Clothes soaked, shoes squishing, but his soul felt different, still broken, but flickering. That night he sat at his desk, wiped the dust from his laptop, plugged it in. The screen lit up. He stared at it like it was a portal. Then, slowly, he opened his CV. He updated his portfolio. He emailed 3 old clients. He reactivated his GitHub. Then, he wrote a list. Wake up, code apply. Again, eat something, drown, start over. It wasn't much, but it was something. And for the first time in weeks, Jordan didn't fall asleep from exhaustion. He fell asleep with intention. The morning after the bridge, something changed in Jordan. Not in his bank account, not in his phone filled with rejections, but in his soul. The heaviness hadn't left, but now it had a crack, and through that crack, a sliver of light began to enter. He woke early, brewed watery tea, sat by his laptop. As if it were an altar, he didn't scroll social media, didn't check Zara's profile. Instead, he opened the crypto trading app he had built months ago, the one he abandoned midway because he thought no one would care. He cared now. Each line of code felt like a heartbeat returning. That same afternoon, as he was troubleshooting a stubborn printer at his low-paying IT support job, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered hesitantly. "Jordan, it's Tund. Remember me from uni?" Jordan's face lit up. "Tund? Wow, it's been forever." Tund laughed. "I've been trying to reach you." "Where have you been hiding?" Jordan hesitated. "Working, grinding, you know how it is." "Well, listen," Tund said. "I'm with a fintech startup now. We're scaling fast and need someone solid on infrastructure and cybersecurity. I immediately thought of you. You still in the game?" Jordan blinked. "Are you serious?" "Serious like Lagos traffic," Tund replied. "Send your CV today. Interviews next week. I'll put in a word with HR." When the call ended, Jordan just sat there stunned breathless. Then he laughed, not because it was funny, but because it felt like water on dry lips. That night, he updated his CV, attached code samples, wrote a cover letter that didn't beg, it promised. He emailed it with trembling hands. For the first time in a long time, he slept like a man with a tomorrow. A week later, he stood in front of a glass building in Victoria Island. Skyline Digital Technologies. Their name alone sounded expensive. He wore his one good blazer, borrowed from a friend, and shoes buffed with toothpaste and prayer. Inside, the air smelled like money and air conditioning. Marble floors, chrome elevators. Everyone wore lanyards and walked like they were solving billion-dollar problems. He was shown to a room with 3 people, a woman with sharp eyes, a man with a smartwatch that cost more than Jordan's entire closet, and a younger guy typing non-stop on a MacBook. They grilled him. System architecture, server security, blockchain integration. Jordan didn't flinch. He answered like someone who had built resilience into every fiber of his being. He told them about the time he patched a bug at his old job that saved a local client from data loss. He spoke about his unfinished crypto project and how it could integrate into existing payment rails. When they asked about teamwork, he spoke of his nights helping classmates debug at the cyber cafe acute. The woman leaned back. "Impressive," she said. The bearded man nodded. "We'll be in touch." Jordan walked out of the room floating. He hadn't just survived. He had arrived. 3 days later, he got the call. "Mr. Ahmadi, this is HR from Skyline Digital. We'd like to offer you the role of IT infrastructure lead. Starting salary is $750,000 a month. Full benefits." For a moment, Jordan couldn't breathe. "Yes," he whispered. "Yes, I can start Monday." When the call ended, he dropped to his knees. Not to cry, to pray, thank you, God. The first few months were a blur. He immersed himself fully. Late nights, early mornings, learning systems, improving protocols, leading small teams. His performance spoke louder than his resume ever could. 6 months in, he was promoted. A year later, his salary had doubled. He moved out of his one-room apartment into a modern 2-bedroom flat in Lekki Phase 1. He bought a Toyota Corolla. Not new, but clean and reliable. He sent money home monthly. Paid off his father's debt. Bought his mother a deep freezer and stocked it with everything she used to dream about. But Jordan wasn't done. He spent weekends at real estate seminars, studying property law and investment. He started a YouTube channel teaching crypto in Pidgin English. It went viral. Soon, his old crypto trading app was fully launched. A client bought partial rights for integration. That payout alone changed his tax bracket. In 2 years, Jordan was no longer an underdog. He was a silent millionaire. He bought land. Then apartments. Then short-lived properties. His YouTube channel had 200,000 subscribers. He invested in a tech startup, building smart farming systems. He gave scholarships anonymously to students at his old school. He traveled to Dubai for the first time, then Singapore, then back to Lagos. Because no matter where he went, this was still home. His mansion stood proudly in Lekki Phase 1, 3 stories. White marble floors, glass balconies, an infinity pool. It wasn't loud, but it spoke clearly. Discipline, vision, grace. He still wore simple clothes, but they were now designer, tailored, crisp. He drove a black Mercedes. Gilles. He owned a white Range Rover and a red sports coupe that made heads turn and Instagram influencers whisper. His home was quiet, clean, no clutter, because he remembered the noise of struggle, He remembered sharing space with Zara and still feeling alone. He remembered the smell of betrayal on a pillow. So now, he kept peace like a bodyguard at the gates of his soul. Yet for all the wealth, Jordan didn't change who he was. He still replied to emails from interns, still mentored students from his alma mater, still called his mother every Sunday, even when he was abroad. He didn't chase clout, didn't throw parties, didn't flaunt. He moved like a man who had danced with the darkness and survived. And he never forgot the moment on Third Mainland Bridge, nor the man with the umbrella who saved him. Sometimes, Jordan would drive by that spot just to remind himself, this is how close you were to quitting. This is how far you've come. But fate wasn't done with him yet. Because on one random Saturday afternoon, sun blazing, traffic crawling, the smell of roasted plantain in the air, Jordan saw someone on the roadside that made his heart freeze. She was sitting by a cracked pavement. Her wrapper was dusty, her slippers broken, her hair tied under a faded scarf. Two small children, twins, clung to her sides. One was crying softly. The other picked at the dirt. Hungry, she raised her voice faintly to passing strangers. Please help me feed my children. Anything you have. Jordan turned, looked again. His chest tightened. There was no mistaking her. It was Zara. Jordan's feet froze. The busy Lagos street blurred around him. Horns blared. Okadas zipped past. But all he could hear was the rasp of a voice, weak, cracked, desperate. Please, anything. Just small food for my children. There she was. Zara. The same woman who once mocked his dreams, called his love not enough, and left him kneeling in a crowded mall with a ring in his hand and shame in his throat. Now she sat on the hot roadside under the punishing sun, barefoot and begging. Her eyes were sunken, ringed with exhaustion. Her skin, once radiant with luxury and care, was now dulled by hardship. Her clothes were stained, loose in places, and clung to her body like a question she couldn't answer. The twins beside her, no more than 3 years old, mirrored her defeat. Dust clung to their cheeks. Their hair was unkempt, their limbs too thin. One of them clutched her wrapper as if trying to anchor himself to something stable. The other sat silently, drawing circles in the dirt. Jordan took a slow breath. This wasn't a fantasy. It was real. Zara? She looked up slowly. Recognition dawned in layers, confusion, shock, and then a wave of emotion that nearly collapsed her entire face. Her mouth trembled. Jordan. She blinked, as if hoping the vision in front of her would vanish. The clean polo shirt, the expensive sunglasses, the black GLE parked nearby gleaming like pride under the sun. You look so ... Good, she said, voice barely above a whisper. Jordan took off his sunglasses, looked at her. Really looked, and said, and you look lost. She opened her mouth, closed it. Tears welled. I don't even know where to start. Try, he replied. His voice was calm, not angry. Just honest. Zara exhaled slowly. Her voice cracked. After I left you ... I married Fola, the guy I told you about. Jordan didn't move. He just waited. He promised everything. A house in Ikoyi, trips abroad, private chef. It was good. For a while, she swallowed. Looked at her twins. But it wasn't real. 2 years in, the EFC come, internet fraud. He was arrested. They froze our accounts, seized everything. The cars, the house, even my wedding ring. She shook her head, a bitter laugh slipping out. Everything gone in 1 week. Just like that. Jordan blinked. Where's Fola now? Still in prison, she whispered. I haven't seen him in months. I moved into a face me I face you in Agege. Then I got kicked out. No job, no family willing to help. The twins, her voice broke. They're all I have. Silence stretched between them. A silence thick with memory. With pain. With irony. Zara sniffled. Some days we don't eat. Other days, we beg until someone drops coins. I come here because rich people pass. Sometimes they pity us. Most times they don't. Jordan glanced at the kids again. Their innocence struck him harder than her apology ever could. Get up, he said. Zara frowned. What? Get up, he repeated. You're coming with me. She stared at him like he had offered her wings. After everything I did to you? I don't repay evil with evil, Jordan replied. She hesitated. Jordan. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. Just get up. 10 minutes later, Zara sat in the back seat of Jordan's Mercedes with the twins. The leather interior swallowed them in silence. The scent of luxury, cologne, polish, and cool air filled the space like a reminder. This is what you lost. Zara touched the door lightly, as if unsure it was real. Is this your car? She whispered. One of them, Jordan answered, eyes fixed on the road. She nodded, slowly. Her silence was heavy, not with arrogance, but with regret. They drove for 30 minutes, weaving through the Lagos chaos. Zara kept stealing glances. At him, he didn't speak much. Just drove. They pulled into a gated estate where the guards recognized Jordan immediately. Salutes were exchanged. The black gate swung open. Zara gasped. The mansion was pristine, 3 stories, glass balconies, a well-tended lawn that shimmered in the late afternoon light. A white Range Rover and a red sports car sat in the driveway like royalty on thrones. Jordan parked silently. Zara didn't move. This. This is where you live? She asked, voice barely present. Yes, he said simply, stepping out. She followed, holding the children's hands. Her knees buckled slightly as they entered the marble-floored foyer. The chandelier above sparkled. The scent of vanilla and citrus drifted through the air. A maid appeared silently, bowing slightly. Show Madame Zara to the guest room, Jordan said. Run a bath. Clean clothes for her and the children. Then have the chef make something hearty. Zara stared at him. He didn't flinch. He didn't smile. He just turned and walked away. An hour later, Zara emerged from the guest room wearing a simple cotton dress, hair washed and combed, skin no longer dulled by sweat and soot. The twins wore clean t-shirts and shorts. They looked like different children. In the dining room, plates of steaming jollof rice, fried plantain, and chicken awaited them. Juice, water, fresh fruit. Zara hesitated only for a moment before eating. First, small bites, then full mouthfuls. She didn't speak, she just ate. And when the plates were empty, she sat her fork down and looked at him. Her eyes glistened. Jordan. I'm sorry for everything, for what I said, for how I left, for all the ways I broke you. Jordan leaned back in his chair. I forgave you a long time ago, he said. Her lips trembled. Do you think we could start again? Jordan didn't hesitate. Double quotes. No, Zara. I'm with someone now. A woman who stood by me when I had nothing. I can't betray that. The rejection was gentle, but absolute. Zara looked down. The silence in the room this time wasn't bitter. It was final. That night, as the twins slept in the plush guest bed, Zara lay awake, staring at the chandelier. She had never imagined this, being in his house, not as his queen, but as his mistake. And deep inside, the coldest truth settled in her chest like stone. This could have been her life. The morning sun spilled through the tall windows, washing the white marble floors in golden light. Zara woke slowly, cradled in a bed softer than anything she'd touched in years. For a fleeting second, she forgot everything. The street, the heat, the hunger. She reached across the bed instinctively, half expecting to find Fola's cold absence or her twins' tiny limbs, but all she found was silence and regret. She sat up slowly, the air smelling of vanilla, linen, and money. The twins were still asleep beside her, their faces finally peaceful. She ran her fingers over their hair, whispered a thank you she didn't fully understand. A tray of breakfast awaited on a small table, eggs, toast, fresh papaya, and juice. She ate quietly, the kind of meal that makes your eyes sting, not from flavor, but from memory. She couldn't remember the last time she had been served, let alone cared for. After dressing, she stepped into the hallway, soft Persian rugs cushioned. Her footsteps. She walked past rooms she hadn't entered, walls decorated with framed quotes and awards, polished wood and expensive art. Then she paused in front of a study, Jordan's office. The door was ajar. Inside, he sat in a leather chair, tapping at a tablet. Two large monitors glowed behind him. Shelves lined with books, gadgets, and framed photos of conferences and award ceremonies surrounded the room. He looked up. "Morning," he said. She smiled, awkwardly. "Morning. Thank you for everything." He nodded. Zara stepped in slowly, hands clasped. "I've been thinking," she began. "I know I hurt you. I know I left you when you were building everything that became this. I see the man you've become. And She paused. "I don't expect anything. But I would do anything to be part of your life again." Jordan listened. Calm. Unblinking. "You know," he said, "when you left, I thought it was the end of me, but it was the beginning. The pain, it gave me purpose. Focus, fire." Zara swallowed. "I see that now. I was scared of struggle. I was tired of pain." "We all make choices," he replied. "But we also live with them." She nodded, eyes brimming. "Please," she said softly. "Even if it's just friendship, just give me a corner in your world." He stood, towering in the morning light. "I can't," he said gently. "Because my heart belongs to someone who believed in me when I was invisible, and I won't trade her love for nostalgia." Zara's gaze fell to the floor. The rejection didn't sting like it once might have, because this time it was earned. The cause is done. It was earned. The coke it once might have, because this time it once might have, because this time it was earned. The cause this time it was earned. Rest of the day passed in slow motion. Zara walked the halls of his mansion, watching maids move quietly, chefs preparing lunch, security guards patrolling the compound. She watched Jordan from afar, taking calls, discussing investments, reviewing proposals. She watched the life she had thrown away unfold in front of her, like a movie where she used to be the lead, but now was only a ghost in the credits. When evening came, she sat by the window of the guest room. The pool reflected the gold of the setting sun. The twins played on a rug, their laughter soft, innocent. Zara stared at them. This could have been our life, she thought. Not in jealousy. In truth, she had held gold once and traded it for dust. The next morning, the smell of fresh bread wafted through the house. Zara sat quietly on the edge of the bed, unsure of what came next. Then, a knock at the door. The maid stepped in, bowing politely. "Madam, Olga, Jordan says you should be ready in 1 hour. He wants to take you somewhere." Zara's stomach tightened. She got dressed quickly. Clean clothes, simple makeup. Nothing flashy. When she stepped into the living room with the twins, Jordan was already by the door, car keys in hand. Dressed in a crisp white shirt and tailored trousers. "We're going for a drive," he said. No explanation. She didn't ask. They rode in silence. Lagos moved past the tinted windows, vendors shouting, buses honking, billboards promising dreams. But inside the car, it was still. After 30 minutes, they pulled into a quiet residential estate. Neat rows of houses freshly painted, quiet streets lined with trimmed hedges. Jordan parked. "This is it," he said. Zara blinked. "What is?" He stepped out. She followed, twins in tow. They walked up to a cream-colored 2-story building. Simple, modest, clean. A small flower bed bloomed by the entrance. A gentle breeze whispered through the neighborhood. Jordan unlocked the door. Inside, the apartment was fully furnished. New sofa, dining table, 2 beds with fresh linens, a small kitchen, a bathroom with working taps and clean towels. Zara turned slowly, unsure what she was seeing. "The rent for 1 year is paid," Jordan said. "The landlord knows you're coming. You don't need to worry about being kicked out." Zara's lips trembled. "Jordan." "There's more," he said, pulling an envelope from his pocket. He handed it to her. She opened it with shaking hands. Inside, neat stacks of dollar bills. Crisp, clean. She counted without meaning to. Her breath caught. $10,000. He said, "Start a business. Feed your kids. Get back on your feet." Zara covered her mouth. Tears poured. "Why?" she whispered. "After everything I did to you. After how I treated you. Why would you do this?" Jordan's eyes softened. "Because I'm not you," he said. "And because your betrayal made me better. It hurt, yes. But it also lit a fire under me. I don't hate you. I thank you. But that doesn't mean we can ever go back." Zara collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. She remembered everything. The way she used to roll her eyes when he shared his ideas. The men she compared him to. The way she dismissed his love as insufficient. And here he was, giving her a second chance. At life. Not love, but dignity. He placed the house key on the table, knelt to kiss the twins on their foreheads. Then stood. "Take care of them," he said softly. "And take care of yourself." Zara looked up. "Jordan," she whispered, "I'm sorry." He paused at the door, didn't turn, didn't smile, just said, "Goodbye, Zara." And then he left. Zara sat in the quiet of her new apartment long after. Jordan left. The twins were playing in their room, giggling as they explored the clean space. But she remained still on the couch, the envelope still in her lap, her heart heavier than it had ever been. This place. This blessing, this life. It wasn't hers. Not really. It had been given, not earned. And that hurt more than poverty ever could. She looked around. The fresh paint, the hum of working appliances, the sturdy roof above her. All reminders that once upon a time she'd been offered this future with love attached, and she walked away because she thought she deserved more. Now, all she had was shelter. And regret. The next few days were slow and quiet. Zara woke early, bathed the twins, cooked for them. She started making plans, lists, the kind Jordan used to write. Rent-free or not, she refused to let the gift rot. She began looking into starting a food delivery service. Her cooking had always earned compliments. Maybe that could be her start. But every night, after the twins fell asleep, she would sit by the small living room window. The streetlights would glow softly. The breeze would whisper, and she would remember the sound of Jordan's voice when he proposed, the way he used to pray over instant noodles, the way he used to believe. She'd held a diamond once and dropped it in search of glitter. Jordan, meanwhile, moved on. He returned to his routine, meetings, code reviews, gym runs, investor calls. He didn't mention Zara to anyone. Not to his girlfriend. Not to his mother. Not even to Tund, who often joked about how far he'd come. But some nights, he'd sit in his office and think about the boy he once was. The boy with nothing but cracked code, wrinkled shirts, and dreams nobody respected. And he'd smile. Because he'd survived. Because he never gave up. Because he had stayed kind. A few weeks later, he got a handwritten letter. No sender name. Just a folded sheet delivered through his office receptionist. It read, "Jordan, I don't expect anything. Not a reply, not another chance. I just want to say thank you. For the house, for the money, for not treating me how I treated you. The kids are fine. I started a small food service from the kitchen. It's nothing big, but it's mine, and every time I serve someone, I think of how you served me. Mercy when I deserved silence. May God continue to bless you." She folded the letter quietly, placed it inside his desk drawer, not with bitterness, but with closure. Months passed. Zara never reached out again, But their story, lived on in Jordan's heart as a reminder of two things. Not all pain is punishment. Some of it is preparation. Sometimes losing someone is how you find yourself. The moral of this story? Don't judge a man by where he is today. Respect his vision. Value his struggle. Stand by him in his process, not just in his profit. Zara didn't do that. And for the rest of her life, she would live with that echo, a whisper of what could have been. Because while her heart had once chased riches, Jordan became one. Moral of the story: true love isn't about comfort, it's about character. Never trade loyalty for luxury. Never abandon the one who believes in you just because the future looks uncertain. Because sometimes the man without a car today will one day drive past you in a convoy and not stop, but look and remember. And then drive away. The moral of this story is simple. Love built on patience, loyalty, and faith is worth more than any quick luxury. Those who walk away from humble beginnings in search of instant riches often find themselves empty when the glitter fades. But those who endure, who believe, who choose character over convenience, often rise far beyond what they imagined. Never underestimate the power of quiet consistency, and never abandon someone who sees your future before it arrives. You might lose the very treasure you were meant to keep. We hope this story moved you. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What lessons spoke to you the most? And here's something exciting. Another powerful and emotional tale is on the way in just a few days. So don't forget to subscribe, tap the notification bell, give this video a thumbs up, and share it with your loved ones. Thank you, and may God bless you.